All right, we're going to do a continuation of our elements of art and our principles of design. And we talked about line in our last class and did a small project that had to do with line. Now we're going to talk about shape. And in the basic forms, when you have a line, we work with line, when a line goes around and crosses over itself, now this goes from being a line to being a shape. There are different types of shapes. There are organic shapes and there are geometric shapes. So we're going to talk about that. This is our vocabulary. This is the page. So if you want to click and read all about that, the directions for what goes in this box is going to be a little bit different than what is asked for you there. Although if you feel like you want to do those also, you're more than welcome to. But this is our definitions for organic shapes and geometric shapes. I just showed you how a line becomes a shape. And we're going to utilize these activities to create a design that's going to focus on shapes and lines. The next phase of shapes that we have to talk about is more on shape. The words you know are positive shapes and negative shapes. And if you're looking at these pictures, the area that's in the background is the negative space, and the positive space is the cowboy and the horse. Or the woman here is the positive space, and the background is the negative space. Probably this is the most that you've seen before. It's the faces, but if you look at the negative space in between, it looks like the, well, I see the pawn from a chess game. It doesn't always, the negative space doesn't always create a shape, but you need to be concerned about that because the viewer may see that and be looking at something different than what you're wanting them to look at. And again, understanding the definitions of this, and at any time, push pause, read the handout. You're responsible for all this information on the handout. But what I'm going to do now is show you the actual directions for what you're going to do. Now, we talked about taking a line and moving a line around, and when it crosses over itself in this area, a shape is created. So, there's probably plenty of shapes that you can think of that are geometric or organic shapes. And I'm going to start off by drawing what I think is a leaf shape. So that's a leaf shape. And then I'm going to draw, because every leaf deserves to have a hungry caterpillar on it. So I'm going to draw another organic shape. And they don't always have to be the outlines of actual objects, but it could be just a shape that, somebody might say that looks like a water droplet, or that looks like the top view of a lake. Geometric shapes always fall into the same patterns. They have these corners, and they might have 3 sides, they might have 4 sides, they might be square with all the sides are equal, they may be rectangular with sides that are longer on the top than the sides. So there's all sorts of different combinations of shapes, octagons, all of those things that you learn in your geometry class. But this is what we're going to do. We're going to start off with our 2 shapes, and most everybody has a phone. So then we're going to place our phone on our paper, and we're going to trace the phone. We're going to trace around the phone, and then we're going to change our directions, and we're going to trace around the phone again. So you should have 2 geometric shapes, 2 organic shapes. And then what I want you to do is I want you to go to the corner of, or any place on any of your items, and draw a line to the corner of the paper. So I could go to this one, I could go to this one, but I'm aiming for this corner of the paper. We go from the closest one or the furthest one and go to the corner. We're going to start with this one right here and go to the corner. So now what you've officially done is, in this paper you have a lot of different shapes. I'm going to use our ideas. Let me find our line. This is our unfinished line. I haven't finished these last 3 spots here because this was a classroom demonstration. But you're going to take your series of lines, the different types of lines, and you may say, well, this really looks like a geometric type of line, and this type of line or this type of line looks like a very organic type of line. So you want to use those lines and those patterns and fill in an area. So start with a small area. This is a small area right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the wavy lines, and I'm going to fill that area up with wavy lines. Now the key is try not to place wavy lines in this one, or wavy lines in this one, or wavy lines in this one, or wavy lines here, unless they're changing directions. If I just absolutely had to do wavy lines again, you could do the same direction over here. Because this particular shape doesn't touch that shape except for right here at that corner. But you wouldn't want to continue it on this way, because this is going to blend into this one and you won't see that those are 2 different designs. You could also go in and with your Sharpie marker, and you could thicken this line by adding line next to it, and that would differentiate it from that line. You could say, all right, this area here, it looks like it's going to be good for doing some straight lines. And your straight lines, you're going to say, are more geometric if we're doing straight lines than they are biomorphic. So now you're going to go through and you're going to fill up, and your finished design will have designs in there like this. Now this one is lacking the organic shapes or biomorphic shapes, and instead of having you do 2 designs like this, just add in some biomorphic shapes, like the leaf shape here and the worm shape. We're going to call that a caterpillar shape. We got your 2 rectangle shapes, and then you're going to fill in. You may fill in some solid areas, and we'll talk about more. The next thing we'll talk about is how to balance these out. So we're talking about balancing these out by not having these designs go into the next design so that they stand apart from one another. So you don't want to put this design here or this design here, because it looks like a continuation. There's a line there that separates this shape from that shape, and that's what you want to keep in focus as you're doing your activity. Get your pencils, use your ink pen, use your Sharpie marker, and go out and have some fun.